Well, hello there. It is great to see you again, and welcome back to the latest installment of Optimizing Your Financial World. I am your host and moderator, Ryan Ruff, and boy, is it good to be back with you again today. And we have our star of the show, and that's Mr. Mark Wade, president of Echelon Family Office. He's standing by. He'll be joining me in just a moment. We're going to be unpacking another wealth management discussion. That's what we tackle here on the show. And today we've got a really interesting topic. You've heard Mark and I talking about family needs, wealth planning needs, wealth succession needs. I mean, so many different topics surrounding family wealth. But today we're going to take an approach towards family wealth. It's very different than your, run of the mill conversation. And that is, we're going to be examining, the challenges that many parents face that are associated with raising a child that has special needs. So there are a number of financial planning strategies and solutions that are at a family with, a child that has special needs at their disposal. And Mark and I are going to be discussing about what some of those strategies and solutions look like and, the options that exist for those families that are likely going to be faced with some financial pressures when undergoing a certain circumstance like that. So that being said, let's go ahead and bring Mark out and get right into it. Mark, it's good to see you this morning. How are you doing?
Hey, Ryan, I'm doing great today. How about yourself?
I'm good. I'm good. Can't complain. Always good to be back with you, Mark. And today we got a really interesting conversation that we're unpacking. We should start by acknowledging that just raising children at all comes with many surprises, and families with special needs children are often going to face some considerable challenges along the way. Would you agree?
Phew, without a doubt, and boy, that's really an understatement, Ryan, when you think about it. Raising children is difficult enough, I know for a fact. But when a child has special needs or disability of some type, you know, it's been said to me that what are normally just like hurdles or speed bumps look more like mountains. All right, and those things that might just be a little pothole, man, oh man, they can seem like bottomless pits at times. So yeah, way more challenging, and the unknown portions of that are especially scary at times. So it's especially true when you have to think about two key financial issues, and those two key financial issues are typically paying for the many expenses that can accompany raising a special needs child. Okay, and then the second part of that is positioning the assets for the child's future, so the child can have as rich and full a life as possible, and critically, especially when you're no longer there to help. So if you think along the lines of lifetime costs for caring for a person with a disability, it's an estimated to be about $1 million. And that's like four times the amount it takes to raise a typical child from birth to say age 18, not including college costs.
Sure, sure. So Mark, let's stay high level here before we get into the weeds of this conversation. What are some of those biggest concerns that parents of kids with special needs are likely to confront right off the bat?
Well, I can think of two that are omnipresent. I mean, they're just there all the time. And one is just the financial shock of it all. If you think about it, a child's special needs, are identified, and the problems occur, after the child is born, right? Which gives the parents no advance warning or time to look into what, could take place financially to address the issue. What could they do to help? They haven't thought about that because they haven't thought about having a special needs child in most cases. So among the many questions, that are new is that when a child has special needs, a common thing is that it could mean that the family's income is impacted dramatically or their savings are impacted dramatically, which most certainly are going to change their future plans to some degree.
And then Mark, what's the other one? You mentioned there's two. What's the other one that you're seeing on this front?
Yeah, and the other one really is just those ongoing healthcare expenses. The many healthcare needs that require a one-time expense. In stark contrast, have children with special needs. Those expenses are often ongoing. They require monthly, weekly, or even daily services that could be needed for years or even decades as the child becomes an adult. So clearly, those ongoing expenses can be shocking and devastating.
Yeah, Mark, I want to circle back for a moment and something you had just touched on, and it's that lack of clarity or visibility. You don't know that you're going to have a child with special needs, so you're not planning ahead of to face that issue. I would imagine that that's an especially difficult part here, right?
Yeah, because on top of everything, the cost for special needs treatments can fluctuate dramatically, right? Think about it. The lack of financial clarity that accompanies a diagnosis, that it's further exacerbated by the possibility that those ongoing costs are probably highly inconsistent from year to year. They vacillate so much. So, and this can happen especially when, for example, a special needs condition improves or worsens significantly. The ups and downs of what those costs could be can be volatile, to say the least. Okay, and so the lack of that cost visibility, let's call it, that can make even more difficult, tremendously difficult to plan how much money is going to be needed, where it's going to come from, and how the financial assets could be positioned to generate the income needed, to pay for those additional costs. So add that to the fact that parents of special needs kids often encounter confusion around a lot of the issues, the financial issues especially, things such as deductibles and claims, out of pocket provide out of po- out well, let's say, yeah, out of pocket costs, out of network providers, sometimes the denials in coverage, and usually without anyone capable that can help them, navigate the course that they need to travel along to make sure that the insurance companies sit up and listen and take notice and do what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, I mean, Mark, let's call a spade a spade. This is a daunting undertaking for a lot of families out there. So, we always talk about on this show putting that first step forward, taking the right course of action to address a financial issue. So let's talk about that. What can parents or grandparents of a child with special needs do? What's the first step really in getting on top of their finances for this?
All right. So, the smart financial planning around special needs involves not just thinking about what needs to happen today, okay, and the foreseeable future ahead. Okay. So let me have to redo that. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
okay. So smart financial planning around special needs really involves thinking about today and the foreseeable road ahead. What's going to happen in the future, and along the lines of the distant and the uncertain far future, right? So, the good news is that, well, there's a lot of different savvy financial moves that parents can make on behalf of the special needs children, and they can potentially deliver big benefits to both themselves and their children today, tomorrow, and down the road. Uh, you're probably going to ask me, okay, so tell me a little bit more about that. Well, okay, so you know, with the current and ongoing expenses, some basic wealth planning like budgeting, that should be done regularly. Okay, if you conclude that you know the likely healthcare treatments and services will almost certainly going to require you to spend up to your annual out-of-pocket maximum, one of the simple things you can do is make that a fixed expense on your budget as opposed to a variable expense. Make sure it's a fixed expense on your annual budget.
Okay, all right, I like that one. And Mark, another thought that just popped in my head. What about outside help? Can a family with a child that has special needs, can they look to maybe a government agency of any sort for outside help financially?
Yes. Okay. That's certainly something to look into. Many families are going to qualify for financial help from the government. Things such as monthly supplemental Social Security income (SSI). That might be available to some individuals who meet the SSI disability standard, and individuals with disabilities who also have a qualifying work history or are able to qualify, for benefits based on their parents' records might be eligible for some Social Security disability insurance, SSDI. So additionally, sometimes Medicaid and Medicare may cover some of the healthcare expenses and some of medical equipment costs too. So it's really important that you don't assume that you earn too much or that you're too wealthy to get any benefits. The rules, they can vary from state to state, making it possible that you'll qualify for some amount of financial assistance. It's
Okay,
certainly
so
worth looking into.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, Mark, let's look even deeper then, beyond the government assistance, beyond the surface level financial planning that a family can do. What are some next level steps that parents or grandparents could consider on this front?
Ryan, it's sometimes people give up with the government assistance, but there are things that you can do proactively in planning. So it's good to look at the advanced planning solutions that are really designed to help parents more easily pay for the expenses of raising a special needs child. And, one of the things that parents should look at are ABLE accounts. ABLE accounts are essentially a 529 like savings plan to help families who are caring for children or adults with disabilities. And these ABLE accounts are funded with after tax contributions that aren't eligible for federal tax deduction. However, like the 529 plans for college, these ABLE accounts, the contributions grow tax free and withdrawals are tax free when you use them for qualified disability expenses. That's the key, right? You got to use them for qualified disability expenses. So, and these generally include things such as, it's a wide variety, things such as rent, food, transportation, education, training for employment, obviously to healthcare, and some other types of personal support services. So, the thing to remember too is that anybody can contribute to an ABLE account, including grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins. Anybody can contribute to an individual's ABLE account. And when I think of it, there's another benefit, that ABLE accounts or that the contributions are shielded from the asset-based limits that could jeopardize an individual's ability to access that other government assistance. Just simply put, whatever people put into this account is not counted in the qualification of whether or not you get government assistance. So, normally special needs individuals, they lose eligibility to certain federal disability benefits if they have more than a certain amount of assets in their name. But that's not the case with assets that are held in an ABLE account. It's a way for them to provide, financially for special needs children without making a direct financial gift to the individual that could jeopardize their access to other financial support. So it's a gift to an account that the individual doesn't own, and it shields them from losing eligibility to federal money. And of course, there are the contribution limits and other rules that people should be aware of, before they decide to go with an ABLE account. So definitely one of the more advanced planning strategies to look into.
Oh, I love that. That's a really good one for our audience, Mark. And another thought that popped into my mind, and I'm sure this is a concern that many parents or grandparents, rather, of children with special needs are thinking about, and that's helping their child maybe after they're gone. Once they've passed on. Any thoughts on this front? What's any strategies they can lean on to continue to provide that support for their child?
Absolutely. This could be a little scary at times to parents with special needs children. Uh, but the special needs financial planning, you must also address the estate planning. In the event you're not here and you're unable to care for your child, who's going to do it and how's that going to get funded? Now that has to be part of your estate planning. So, often parents that are seeking to ensure their special needs children are going to have great care after they're gone, they're going to set up some type of what we call a special needs trust that's designed to hold and safeguard assets for the benefit of the child. You know, that said, parents also set these trusts up while they're still alive to help supplement the cost of care. And again, away from ruining the eligibility for any federal funding. So it eliminates that possibility. So these trusts can be set up with, terms and language that say how and when the money should be used, for what specific terms, and, what conditions have to be met for the trust to be, deemed acceptable, so on and so forth. Uh, and as with many other types of trust, special needs trust can potentially protect assets if the child is sued or if the child becomes divorced at some point in the future. You know, and they're very effective when they're set up properly. So, in general, there are two basic types of special needs trust, Ryan. Uh, I might as well just go over them here because it makes sense.
Please, yeah.
Yeah, and two types of special needs trust that most families' assets, they tend to invest their assets in are basically a first party trust, and that first party special needs trust. is used when the assets contributed to the trust actually belong to the beneficiary. You know, basically that your special needs child or grandchild actually owns the assets. Okay. This can happen if, let's say, the child inherits money or the child gets money from a legal settlement of some type. Those assets can be put into a first party trust. The other type of trust, which is very common, is a third party trust, and that's when the funding of the assets in this trust for the benefit of the disabled or special needs person, comes from parents or grandparents or any other beneficiary, okay, who in which case is not considered the owner of the assets. So a third party trust can be especially effective to offer more flexibility and to transfer any remaining wealth to another beneficiary, such as another child or charity. So if for some reason the funds in that special need trust are no longer needed, or should the special needs individual pass away and there's still money left over in that trust, they can be directed to another individual or a charity.
Mark, I mean, I'm hearing a lot of great stuff here. Special needs trusts, able accounts, government assistance. I mean, there ultimately, if we bottom line it for our audience out there today, there are options, there are solutions out there to tackle this big challenge that they are facing in their lives. And I would imagine when you're having conversations like this with some of your clients, Mark, maybe about this topic, I would imagine that comes as a pretty nice relief.
Absolutely, Ryan. I mean, you can just watch parents' shoulders just drop. They become a little bit more at ease when you find out that there's some alternatives and help available. So, you know, they can take actions that are going to help ease the financial burden, and also ensure that their children are going to get the care they need, as well as set their children up for, a better and more stable financial life as they get older. Of course, they're look, let's face it, these are also complicated areas like every other financial area, right? This involves a fair amount of legal expertise too. So, there's no one size fits all answer to this, given that one family's particular situation could be quite different from another family's. But for families that are experiencing the confusion and definitely the uncertainty that, accompanying raising a special needs child, knowing that there's options available that they can consider, it can be a helpful foundation to start to help them create a plan for today and well into the future for that child.
Sure thing. And Mark, for anybody out there in our audience that's, maybe this conversation is really resonating with them today, and maybe they're interested in reaching out to you and your team to just open up a dialogue and talk about their unique situation and how, the options that are available for them. What would be the best way they can get in touch with you and your team to just open up, like I said, open up a dialogue?
Sure, Ryan, and thank you. So, individuals can can examine us. They can check us out online at www echelon office. That's ECHELON office.com. If they're so inclined, they can email me directly. I'd be more than happy to respond directly to them. They can do that at mwade, that's MWADE, at Echelon Wealth, ECHELON, the word wealth.com. Or they can simply call in. They can call directly into our office at 888-892-9882.
All right, fantastic, Mark. Well, look, hey, I appreciate you carving some time out of your day to be with us and talk about this really sensitive topic. I mean, a lot of great value within today's conversation, and I'm looking forward to being with you on the next one.
Great, Ryan. I really appreciate it. There's lots of tremendous value that people can get. Lots of great help that they can get by just asking questions through the right sources.
Amen to that. Well, Mark, again, appreciate you being here. And we also want to say one final goodbye to you guys. That's our audience. Thanks again for joining us here. Oh, sorry, Mark. Go ahead and mute yourself. And then I'll dive into the outro. All right, cool. Oh, fantastic, Mark. And hey, look, we also want to say, and give a final thank you to our audience. We appreciate you guys being aboard here on the show today and spending some time with us. If you took anything away from today's conversation, maybe you benefited from any of the strategies that Mark listed earlier, do us a favor, subscribe to the show on whichever platform you checked us out on. And then, of course, share some of this information with any friends, family, business owners, anybody that you think would benefit from these types of discussions. I've said it once before on prior episodes. I'll continue to say say it, we're taking the strategies, the solutions, really just the conversations that Mark is having with clients on a regular basis over at Echelon Office, and really just bringing them to you guys here on this show. We're talking about pertinent topics, and by subscribing to the show on the platform that you saw us on today, then that will help you never miss out on another great wealth management discussion. So for Mark, I'm Ryan. We're going to go ahead and say so long, but we appreciate you stopping by and being with us on today's installment of Optimizing Your Financial World.